Let's go! Texas A&M and Ole Miss have one major advantage over the rest of the SEC, but shh, it's a secret.
For the win! Good! It's good! LSU does it!
Sleepers rarely exist in college football. It's a mostly predictable sport. But last year, LSU picked to finish fifth in the SEC West. They were able to shock the world and end up winning the division in year one under Brian Kelly. So can there be another West surprise team? I feel these two, the Rebels and the Aggies, have a really good shot of doing it because of this statistic. B2BRG, which is honestly pretty simple. It stands for back-to-back road games. So last year, Ole Miss had to deal with that. They lost at LSU, but the following week, they were able to get it done versus Texas A&M. Just to make sure we are all on the same page, here's an example in 2023. The Georgia Bulldogs have a back-to-back there at the very end at Tennessee and at Georgia Tech. So in recent years, in 2018, 8 teams had to deal with it. Then in 2019, 8 teams. But 2020, if the schedule had been played the way it was supposed to, there would have been 11 back-to-backs. Then in 2021, it went back down to 8. But this is where it gets fascinating. In 2022, that number jumped up to 12. Now, of the 36 teams, only 3 of them were able to survive, winning both back-to-back.
All right, the Gators look to throw it this time. They throw it out to Tony, and Tony wants to throw it into the end zone. It's caught for a touchdown.
Isn't that crazy? Young Kyle Pitts, young Kadarius Toney. You could see them all there. Tyree Cleveland mixed in there. But 2018 Florida, they were able to get it done, winning at Tennessee and then at Mississippi State in an emotional game. Obviously, Mullen returning back to Mississippi State. But one thing you'll notice is on the back end, if you win that first game, you are likely to not perform well in the second on at least one side of the football. That was their lowest point total of the season, only 13, and it was scored on a trick play. Now, the greatest team of all time, they were able to accomplish defeat 2019 LSU, winning at Alabama, but surviving at Ole Miss. Now, offensively, they destroyed them, but defensively, that was by far the worst game of the Aranda tenure versus true freshman quarterback John Rice Plumlee. And then another legendary team was able to overcome it, the 2022 Georgia Bulldogs at Mississippi State, but then at Kentucky, by far their lowest point total on the season and their lowest yard per play mark. That was the only game where they didn't get over 6, and they weren't even close at 5.6. So you'll notice how difficult of a feat this actually is, and if you do accomplish this feat, you are likely to struggle in that second game. And notice the 3 teams who did accomplish it, 2 of them unquestionably legendary teams, undefeated in the playoff era, and a 10-3 Florida team that was stockpiled with draft picks. Not even Saban could get the job done in back-to-backs recently. So now you're looking at this schedule, and the only teams that do not play back-to-back road games in 2023 is Ole Miss and Texas A&M. What a break.
Judkins in! Touchdown, Ole Miss!
Now, there's a lot to like about both of these teams. They return their coaches. They bring in very accomplished coordinators to fix the side of the football that desperately needs fixing. And they have special players like Quinshon Judkins, who you can give the ball to 34 times, and he'll go over 200 and give you a couple tutties along the way. So this Ole Miss team has got some really special players. But if I were to choose between the 2 of these squads that, by the way, avoid the back-to-back road game scenario, it would actually be Texas A&M. Ole Miss has the trickiest out-of-conference game at Tulane in week 2. Obviously a little unlucky that Tulane has really gotten going under Willie Fritz. And then they have to go to Alabama and then play LSU the following week. So back-to-back top 15 recruiters, and then, KJ Jefferson coming to town when he put 51 on you a few years ago in your building, and what he did to you last year as well. Now, I like this stretch here at Auburn after the bye with Vanderbilt, but then you have Texas A&M and at Georgia. A 1-12 shot that you draw the Georgia Bulldogs in Sanford, the final year of this schedule format. Such bad luck for Ole Miss here with this horrid schedule. Now, at Texas A&M, not only do they avoid Georgia, they basically have the same blue chip ratio. Now, Georgia, of course, still has the better team, but it shows you how much talent this roster actually has. Now, I know this Week 2 game at Miami can be tough. We just did a deep dive on the Kentucky football program showing how difficult Week 2 road games can be on teams. Make sure you check that out. But I like where this Auburn game sets up on the schedule. I don't think Auburn will really kick into gear until later in the season. But where I really want to focus is this stretch between Arkansas and Alabama. The Aggies and Hogs have played some weird games, and Texas A&M never seems to play their best football. But versus Alabama, they always play up to them. So what's very interesting is Arkansas has to go on the road at LSU the week before they play Texas A&M, and Alabama will also be on the back end of back-to-back road games as well. They play Mississippi State. Now, they have housed the Bulldogs over the years, but still, it is so hard to win both of them back to back. And keep in mind, A&M's played pretty well against Alabama in the last couple of seasons, beating them the last time they visited College Station. Now, the rest of this schedule is not so hot. At Tennessee, and the Vols will be coming off a bye. You do get a well-timed bye week right there. South Carolina at Ole Miss, Mississippi State. None of those teams top 15 recruiters. Abilene Christian, and, well, this is a game that you'll probably lose at LSU because, well, Jimbo has never really coached that well there. So, look, I think that LSU game could very well decide the West. And here's a good thing. If you do lose that Tennessee game, well, LSU proved last year you can lose a cross-division SEC game because if you beat Alabama and you beat LSU, you're likely to own the tiebreaker over them if they also only have that one loss.
You know, most of our games we've lost. Besides one, we're by one possession.
12th man, I'm going to need your help. I believe that's Cam Dewberry, offensive lineman there. He makes a good point. Texas A&M, they were 2-5 on one-score games last year, so you do expect some more close game luck and positive regression there, and obviously you do see the talent. Now, I promise you at the end a little twist, and here you go. Remember, last year there were 12 teams that played back-to-back road games, okay? Let's talk about the two who didn't. There was actually supposed to be 13 teams that had back-to-back road games until this woman had a change of plans.
And I love football, and I want football to be successful.
So that's Desiree Reed Francois, the athletic director of the Missouri Tigers. Now, what if I told you she probably saved their season? Okay, so Mizzou was scheduled to start the season with a back-to-back road game versus Middle Tennessee and Kansas State. The same exact MTSU Blue Raider team that went 8-5 and pulled off a massive upset at Miami and produced this all-time surrender Cobra. Look at Chad. Come on now. So what did Desiree decide to do? Well, she replaced MTSU with 3-9 Louisiana Tech. This is also a game that was played on a Thursday to give them extra time to prepare for Kansas State. Now, they end up getting beat down by the Wildcats, but there's no telling what could have happened against the Blue Raiders on the road. This Mizzou team was not the same at the beginning of the year like they were midway towards the end of the season. And it was big. Imagine if Mizzou lost one more game. They're not going bowling. And they're not going over their 5.5 win total. So that one decision was beautiful stuff from Reed Francois. But the team that truly did not have a back-to-back road game scheduled at all, well, your surprise team in all of college football last year, the LSU Tigers, right? They were able to win the West, and overall, this was a team that didn't play on the road all too well. And as many of you know, LSU's my favorite team. It is my life's work on Power Hour LSU, and you're looking at their schedule right now. What was very interesting, and I did a video on this at the time, but Mississippi State was a team coming off a back-to-back road game. They got back in at 5 in the morning after going to Tucson, Arizona. And in the LSU game the following week, they were leading. They just fell apart. They really did look exhausted. They had a ton of drops. They muffed a punt, so on and so on. This was a massive advantage for LSU. Now, they essentially, at the end of the season, had to play a back-to-back road game at Texas A&M and then going to Atlanta for a neutral sider in the SEC championship game, and that did not go well at all. So, overall, going on the road, no matter if it's back-to-back or not, is not advantageous for you to play your best football. But, of course, I have my concerns about Jimbo Fisher. Boom! And if you want to see more of the Kentucky Deep Dive, bang! It's all right there for you, baby. Let's go. It's almost that season, baby. It is. Power Hour SEC. Boom! And tonight, we're doing fried fish, baby. Let's go.